Hello and welcome back. So I have another video today. This video is going to cover 4 games played at an adult-only chess tournament that took place yesterday, May the 20th. It was an all-day tournament starting at 10 a.m., so I was a bit tired. And I was playing in the open section. In the open section were players rated between 1600, which was myself, and 2150, which was actually my first opponent. So it was very a high-rated tournament, very difficult games, and I'd like to show those now. So the first game, I was black against David, who's actually a good friend and a coworker at the chess school that we work at, and we had a French defense in this first game. He plays the Tarrasch line with knight d2, with the point that if takes, knight takes. So this line is book, and after queen comes out, there's quite a lot of pressure here on the pawn. He castles, which is essentially a pawn sacrifice, because after takes, here black has won the d-pawn. However, the point is, white is going to get good initiative with their active pieces, open files, and so on. So I was told that the book move is either queen swinging across this row, or even queen c4, but what I elected to play was queen b6, with the thought that if he brings his piece out naturally to attack me, I have bishop c5 blocking the bishop's line and counter-attacking their bishop. And I can always run away if I need to. Queen to a4, and this move confused me a bit at first. It pins my knight, which is awkward because I would have loved to go knight to c5 and bring out the bishop. So it's pinned, and well, I just developed my piece, but then he goes over here to g4, attacking the g7 pawn. I can't let him take that pawn. Another thing is if I castle normally, well, here comes this move, threatening checkmate. I can't take the bishop. I have to push here. He can win the rook, or even go for some kind of checkmates here along the dark squares. So this was a bit difficult for me after queen comes here to g4. I also considered king f8, but that seems a bit weak. So the only other choice, g6. And yes, there are dark squares, but those didn't actually come into play, as you'll see. a3, preparing b4. I recognize this, and I lodge my queen in, attacking the light square bishop. Bishop has to retreat. It actually has no other squares to go to, besides from b1, which is definitely worse. Retreats. My bishop can't do anything, so I'm hoping to bring him out along one of these two diagonals with this move, b6. Knight attacks my queen, and I want to keep my queen active. If I just run away in one of these fashions, it's kind of passive. So queen c2, keeping pressure on all of this stuff. Also, I can see back here if I need to defend. And with this knight move, what he's done is undefended the center pawn. So now my eyes are on this capture. Whenever you move a piece, that piece is not doing what it was doing. And that comes back to bite him in just a second here. Queen c2, b5, or b4 rather, hitting the bishop. But before he takes my bishop, I can take here, threatening his queen. And now white is 2 pawns down in the center. Now my opponent's very highly rated, so I was feeling confident, I was feeling good about this, but I didn't want to let my guard down too early. Check. Not a lot of choices here. I block and take with the king. If I take with the knight, I'm not hitting his queen anymore, and then he's won a piece. So I have to take with the king, which maintains this thread. Queen runs away, also hitting here, and I defend it. I could have also defended it this way, with an attack on the rook, but this felt a little bit loose, and I was worried that these pieces would get attacked later. So defend, more safe, and check again. I move. Queen coming in here, trying to be annoying. So connect my rooks. I have the open file. He can't move his bishop. If he moves here, I'll take it. He can't move his knight, really. If he moves here, I'll take it. Here, I'll take it. Here, I'll take it. Here, I'll take his bishop. And if he goes here, I'll take, like this, doubling his pawns and getting a big attack on his king shortly thereafter. So he gets his rook in the game. This attacks two pieces. Rook goes right back to where it was. Now I want to connect my rooks. Triple up on the c-file. G3 is the best move. I'm a little unsure as to why, but white almost can't move any pieces. In this, take a look in this position right here. It's white to move. What do you do, right? There's almost no move that doesn't worsen your position. I thought he might try to bring his rook out in this way, but it's really, really slow, and I can always grab the bishop with a back rank idea in some lines later. So I connect rooks, reactivates the knight. Here I take the bishop. I could take two rooks for the queen here, but I didn't see anything with this, and I'm losing this pawn with check, and then this pawn, and my bishop can't do anything. I didn't like this at all. So after he recaptures, I preserve the queen, attacking his knight, counterattacks, and I retreat. He's defending his pieces and activating them. And in this position, we had, let's see, yeah, CD1, this position. I feel like my king is just too close to all this, and I never wanted there to be queen takes a7 with check. So I just get my king out of there, and he's bringing his pieces into the game. I suspect he wants to go knight here to d4, hitting my queen, coming in here, forking this. I cannot draw arrows today, forking this. So I just say, okay, you go there, I'll take it. He goes there, I take it. Queen c2, active queen, trying to maintain pressure, keeping the c-file. h4, queen comes up, hitting the rook. Rook scoots on over, and e5. So one thing I noticed here in this position is this is a passed pawn, and this pawn can run also. I have two pawns up on my opponent, and these are those two exact pawns. If I can run these pawns up, I'll be threatening to make a queen, and he might have to sacrifice material to stop that. e5. Now, this is a very interesting moment, because look what the pawns do. The pawns cover these four squares. The queen covers this square is covered. So where does his rook actually go? Very interesting. He moves here, and the game is over. This rook is going to be trapped, so here's what happens. Queen comes over, hitting the rook. Remember, he can't go any of these. He can't go here. He can't stay here. That leaves one option. And now, if I just draw my little circles, the rook can only stay where it is or capture this pawn. And this little move f6 covers everything. The rook is now trapped and has nowhere to go. He decides to cash it in for a pawn, nothing else to do. Try to activate the queen, but after rook to c1, threatening a two-move mate, trading the rooks, there's nothing he can do here. And he resigned. So a very big win for me in the first round. Unexpected, but definitely welcome. So in the second round, I had white against an opponent rated about 2100 as well. And we had an Italian game well, it's sort of an Italian. It was a Sicilian here, but after some moves, we had a very Italian structure with e5 here. And what e5 does, so okay, a lot of stuff happened. Normal moves, developing moves. This counterattacks and e5. So this has fundamentally changed the position. He has 3 center pawns, but they're all blocked up. I've got 2, but I have pawn breaks in the form of f4 and c3, both of which challenge black's center. All my pieces are active. He's got a bad bishop here, but I don't have a bad bishop. I got this bishop out of the pawn chain. You can imagine this bishop being here. That would be difficult for me. I would have to do some awkward twists and turns to get that bishop out. Also, the move e5 weakens the d5, yes, excuse me, d5 and e6 squares more. So we have a good diagonal here. I retreat with the idea of, if he ever goes here, I take. So let's look at that. If he tries to push in the middle, takes, and my bishop can cash in the center. That's a pawn up. So this is why I moved my bishop back here as opposed to back here to d2. I want to keep pressure on his center. Knight comes back. I thought he was preparing king over and f5, or just getting some piece to g4. So, or g5. So to stop any piece landing on g5, I go ahead and play f4 now. If he takes here, I will play bishop takes and double isolated center pawns that can't move, and this can't be defended. This is a disaster, and black is certainly losing this position. So he can't take. He defends with the idea that if I take, then he can take with his pawn, and everything's defended. So my rook's not doing anything here, so I'll go back over to f1, because this f file will be opened up before too long. Bishop here. Now this move really annoyed me, because this is my best piece, and he's challenging it, and I can't really save it. If I take, he takes. If I go back, he'll take. If I stay here, he'll take. If I go here, he'll take. So, looking at all the choices, my best bet is to mess up his pawns rather than let him mess up my pawns. So, I went ahead with that, and takes, and c3, which is the best move. So what c3 does is my other pawn break. I played f4, now I get to play c3. And the point is, I get to take, he'll take, and then bam, close the door with e5. His bishop is bad for the whole game. This is a fixed target here. And I also have the e4 square for my pieces. So what that looks like is, let's say he goes here. He'll take, push. He'll take, and maybe his move. And now I already have moves like queen b3, hitting 2 pawns. This is attacked, and this pawn is going to be here for a very, very long time. So this was the structure I was happy with. Also, I can go onto the c file very quickly if I need to. Instead, he made the right choice, which was to take immediately. B takes, now I've got a big center, and the b file maybe. But the b file actually comes back to bite me in the end. Now he takes on f4, opening this bishop's eyes finally. After bishop takes, so this bishop is still very powerful. Pressure here can come down here. There are a lot of dark squares in the position. And while I don't love this pawn move, I think he did need to play it here. And this hits my bishop again, I have to move. So there's no point to keep pressure here on the center anymore, because let's say I go back, he can do this now. The point being, he's all defended up, and now he's challenging the center. So I go here, just more flexible. I really can't draw here. Okay, king goes over. I think he was worried about queen check, picking up this pawn. I go here anyway, gotta stay active. Now, I knew he was gonna do this. This is his worst piece, was his bishop here. And I knew that he was gonna try and get it out of his pawn chain to a more active square, one of these two. So after this move, I prepared the queen here so I could put a bishop here, blockading his pawn, attacking his queen. I was very proud of this. So queen comes up, c4. The next thing I noticed is that this is a dark square bishop, which means it can't attack the light squares. My plan is to go knight here and knight here, or here and here. I want to get my knight to a forward light squared outpost where it can just exert its pressure for a very long time over this game. Furthermore, in this position, I thought he might go queen here. Whoops. Let's say I do something else. I thought queen b5 might be annoying, forcing me to take it, because my bishop's attacked and my queen's attacked. Force me to take it, and now he's got pressure here. He can also play moves like rook a6 and attack my bishop here, and then double rooks. And he's got the open file, and it's going to be very difficult for me. So c4 stops that as well. Now knight f6, his knight's not playing, he has to play. I'm going to double my rooks. Queen here doesn't actually do anything. I was happy to see this. I double, and knight c7. Oh, okay, queen here liberates the d7 square. Sure. So here, I made a huge mistake. Bishop to a5. I just thought, okay, I can't retreat here, here, here. And if I go here, he'll take my rook and mess up my pawns. I didn't like this. Although this might have even been fine. I should have just bit the bullet and gone for this. Instead, I just tried to save my bishop. This looked like my best piece. And I thought I could come down here to here, or maybe to b4 and maintain pressure. But then he took here, and all of a sudden I realized something was wrong. Something was very wrong. After I take queen c5 check, and then it dawned on me that I was losing a whole bishop. So he's a 2000 rated player. The game is basically over, but we'll follow what happened for the rest of this game. I played king f1 because if he takes here, I don't want there to be a check later. This move, forking two pieces, he defends both, hitting the knight, but I overlooked knight c5, hitting queen and pawn, and saving his knight. I can't take here yet, because he'll take my queen, and I actually can't maintain my queen on this 7th rank at all. So I have to move. Rook is coming in. I figure if he checks me, I need some breathing room. I don't want to have to go here, and then this, and that's gonna hurt. So here, queen here, pinning my rook, sort of save my king. Now he's really threatening my rook. Takes, takes. And we played some more moves, but I cannot. The fact is that I simply cannot defend everything with a piece down. Now after queen f1, I actually found the only move, and the plan is I have to try and trade his queen off by doing some checks. If I check here, he'll move up, and I have nothing. So I check far away, he moves up, and then I have this check, forcing the trade of queens. He checks me, and he goes here, hitting my pawn. I can't save the pawn, I can't push the pawn, my knight can't move, and this game was over very shortly. That was the second round, a very tough round. I thought I had a good position until I got forked and lost a bishop for no reason. It just goes to show that one small mistake can be the difference between winning, drawing, and losing. Alright, in the third round I had black again against an unrated opponent, but I think he said he was 14 or 1500 online. He was kind of coming up in the tournament scene. He had not played very many tournament games up to this point. But okay, we had a queen's pawn, queen's gambit declined. I never want to take here because, well, first, here, and e4, and he has the center, he gets his pawns back, and black's position is very awkward. So you just here, and if he takes, you take, and it's fine. The point is black wants to maintain their pawn on d5. So here, and now he takes, so I maintained my pawn. Knight here, threatening 2 squares perhaps, but I just solidify. We bring out our pieces in castle. We bring out our pieces. Here, my light square bishop can't really move, and I don't want to do anything like this because there's this huge open diagonal it's already planted on. So by just moving knight f8, I can plan to bring my knight here or here to g6 or e6. At the same time, my bishop can see, and at the same time defending squares near my king. So I really liked this move. Queen c2 hitting maybe h7, but it's defended 1, 2, 3 times. No real issue there. I'd love to pick up a knight and put it down here, but you can't do that. So, okay, bishop g4, and I think this move kind of freaked him out a little bit. And the reason I say that is because after this move, he started playing very strangely, and you'll see what I mean. The point is, my bishop isn't going here, here, or here. My bishop's not doing much from home, and it's a bad bishop because my pawns are on light squares. So I just want to get rid of this bad bishop for one of white's pieces, and I'll be happy. You could say, go here and trade it off, but this actually loses a pawn and doubles your pawns, and you're weakening your king. So just threatening the knight, plain and simple. Also threatens to double white's pawns if takes takes. Now I think a fine choice would have just been bishop back with the idea of knight e5 at some point. Now maybe you have to prepare that move first. But he went knight d2, and now it looks like everything he has is aimed to play e4 and gain space in the center. For example, e4. If I capture, takes, and his pieces are, there's a lot of space all of a sudden. And I don't need to draw all the arrows for you to see quite how much flexibility and how many options white has retained here. While meanwhile my pieces are still in the back. So my setup certainly favors a closed position. I really don't want him to play e4. So that's the reason I played knight e6. In this variation, if he plays e4, I'm always ready to play knight takes d4, attacking the queen. The reason I can do this is because he's undefended, his pawn chain. So by attacking the head of the pawn chain, I'm basically immobilizing the body of the pawn chain. Okay. f3, hitting my bishop, I move, and a4. So let's take a look. After he retreated his knight, I just developed, and then he played two wing pawn moves. And that's what I say he played strangely. He's not improving his piece quality. These pawn moves aren't controlling the center. And it just seems like he's struggling to make a plan here. And whenever your opponent is making weird seeming moves, playing on the side, moving the same piece twice, things like that, usually there is a punish. There is a way to punish or refute what they're doing. So here if I ask you, what can black do? What trick does black have here? If I give you 5 seconds to look at this. Okay, so black has this cool move, knight takes d4 anyway, and the point is, because these pieces are so jumbled up and bottled up, if he takes back, I win the rook in the back, that's pinned. The pawn is pinned here. Also, it hits his queen very usefully. So he has to retreat the queen, and I go back. Mission accomplished. And now his center is a lot worse, and as a result of taking this pawn, I've gained the e5 and c5 squares for my pieces. For example, bishop c5, or bishop c5 or e5, or knight here. And you'll see that stuff happens very soon. The bishop comes up, again, trading off my best piece. At least my opponents know this is fundamental. You want to get rid of your opponent's best pieces. I looked for a bit at this, and I didn't see anything better than to take. His rook is now loose and undefended, and his back rank is slightly weaker, so I thought this would be fine. Here, d4, so this move is very cool. I was very proud of this move. If he takes it, queen takes. Whoops. Oh, it looks like the website is having some trouble, actually. Okay. Why is this blue? Alright, anyways. If he takes it, queen takes, check, and I win the knight. So that was the plan. If he doesn't take it, I'll take here, and I've got this diagonal is very powerful. I've got knight moves like this and this. Okay, so he has to move a knight. I take here anyway. He takes. Take here, and queen d4. So this move pins the rook to the king. It attacks this rook as well, and it gets ready for more pieces to come in. So I really liked this move. He goes king f2. He has to defend his rook, of course. The other choice was to use the queen somehow. And now I went ahead with this knight c5 move. And this move is cool. I really like this move. It threatens the bishop. And it's a little hard to see why this move threatens the bishop. But let's look at it. Let's say he does something random and we take the bishop. Okay, so he cannot play rook takes, because that would be illegal. It's pinned. If knight takes, I win the queen down here. That was also pinned. And if pawn takes, I win the queen like this. That's also pinned. So this bishop is basically an undefended piece in this complicated position. So my opponent recognizes that his queen is not useful where it is. He goes queen c1 with the idea that if I take this, he can now take back with knight or pawn. He's gotten out of the pins. However, there's another special move that can be played here. So if I gave you 5 seconds, what can black do? So here, we can go knight to d3, check, forking king and queen. The rook can't take, that's illegal. The only other save is to take it with the bishop. After which, queen takes rook, happened. He goes here, and I take the bishop back. So this sequence wins an entire rook from white. And the king is not safe at all either. I was very happy with this tactic. Usually I'm not a tactical player. Usually I prefer a slower grind. But this whole sequence with the seeming knight sacrifices, this threat here, as well as this threat here. Just 2 simple knight moves, and his position is just crushed. So I thought that was very interesting. Okay, takes. Oh, excuse me, he goes here. Take the bishop. He's trying to activate. Doubled my rooks. He was threatening this. Now his queen is out of play also. This move, interesting, defends sideways, but undefends his knight, so I check and take the knight, and he takes, and so you're already winning by a rook if I gave you 5 seconds here. What tactic does black have? to win the queen and basically wrap up the game. So in this position, rook h2, check, and the next move is queen takes queen. So that was very interesting. And after these moves, well, he got forked again, and then we had a mate shortly thereafter. So this was my third game against the unrated opponent, and I thought this was very cool tactically. Probably my most tactical game ever. Alright, let's look at the last one. This was round 4 against an opponent rated about 1850. And I was white in this position. We had a perk or Peart's defense. And I'm not very familiar with this line, so I just developed my pieces and castled. Here, c5, if I take, he'll take, and my center is weak, his queen's coming in, and yeah, I didn't like this, so I wanted to maintain these exact triangle of pawns, which shuts out his two long-range bishops. If you can see the skeleton underneath, keeping the pawns this way limits his counterplay in the most effective way. Knight here, he has to get his pieces out. So h3, so I didn't like the idea that a knight could go here to g4 and pivot back to e5 in the center. I didn't want him to connect his knights at all during this game. I wanted his knights to be awkward and stepping on each other's toes. On the contrary, my knights are in tandem because I have this f1 square available. Because of his lack of space, his knights are going to be stepping on each other's toes a lot more, whereas mine will be more flexible. So I did not want him to do this maneuver, so that's why h3. Plus, you always need a flight square for your king later. Okay, he comes over here with the idea of f4, I assume. So knight here, as mentioned, defending f4, and coming in here or here. In my last game, too, you saw, this type of knight maneuver from d2 to f1, and then in the center somewhere. This is very helpful because it's not going to go here or here. These moves don't help me much either. I might have gone knight c4 to push in the center, but I wanted to keep this game closed, as I said. So, okay, a6, a4. I don't want him to go b5. I don't want him to get his pieces out so easily. Knight comes to the middle now, threatening my bishop and knight, and also threatening this c4 push, which would be very bad for me. So here, I do have to just take the knight. The other choice I had was bishop c2, and then I figure he can push here in the center, and now he has a thorn pawn. It's very awkward for me, and he'll be able to support that pawn later as well, because once he pushes here, my bishop's not looking at the b5 square. Takes, bishop takes, and my knight's in the back. It needs to play in the game. If I go here, he'll take it and screw up my pawns, so knight e3. Rook b8, I'm not sure why he did this, but it makes sense later, much later. Knight here, so I want to take his bishop and double his pawns. Also, there's a check over here on h6, so my knight is going to be good here. He retreats, bishop h6. So I think, I would argue this is black's best piece, their dark square bishop, and I would like to get rid of it. That's in my best interests. Knight f6, he has to get his pieces back in the game. Takes. Now rook e3, so I figure if he takes my knight, I'll take back with the queen. No problem. This tension is something that I would consider acceptable to leave. Meanwhile, I notice there's some space here on the third rank, and I could even go c4 and get my other rook out the third rank as well. Bishop comes back. Now he's threatening to take here with the knight and mess up my pawns this way, and maybe then play f4, and I didn't like the looks of that. So I have to take. He takes back with the pawn, giving himself an open file. And queen e2 hits this pawn. He pushes it, creates a hole for my bishop to live in. He's threatening, he's trying to trade bishops off again. Not much I can do there. Now here, the computer says I should just play f4 and get on with my plan of blasting open the middle, and that would be fine. Slightly better for white, still pretty close to draw. But after I take and go here, the game says it is straight up a draw. Now because of his rook on the b file and the queen here, he can push b5, getting rid of his weak backwards pawn. I should have not allowed this push. Take takes, queen takes, threatening b2. I have to defend b2. He's going to double rooks, but here I hatch a little plan. After c4, queen comes up. I notice he's got a weakness too. I can't just let him torture my b-pawn for the whole game, or I will just lose very slowly. And I've actually won games like this. If you just get pressure down one file and they can't defend it forever, you will win the game eventually. So here I wanted to do a counter attack on this pawn on f6, his doubled pawn. That's why rook f3. And here he played rook f to b8. Instantly, he slammed down the move so fast that it shook the board a little bit. And I was like, okay, dude, you know, I think he thought he was winning, clearly winning here. But it's just a draw. The computer thinks it's a draw. There's no real advantage for either side. Materials even, pieces and pawns are even. No passed pawns. So yeah, b3, and the point is, yeah, he's got more pieces on this, but his queen is in the front. So if he takes, I'll play rook takes. And after rook takes, I'm not going to take that. I'm just going to preserve my queen. And he's lost his queen for a rook. So after b3, he thought for about 10 minutes, actually, because he also notices my plan, queen b2. And let's say he makes a little move, silly move. If I get to play queen b2, this is a problem for him, this f6 pawn. He can't move it because it's pinned, and he can't defend it. So I'll just play queen takes f6, and then I have pressure on him as well. So he plays a4. He's not going to let me do this. Takes, check. Now if I take his queen, he takes back with a check, and he gets to go behind my pawn, which would be very annoying, and he's got both files, and I cannot contest either of them. This would be very bad for me. So after the queen check, I just move my king. He takes, but now he's one tempo behind the curve here. He attacks the pawn, defend the pawn. Here he made the correct move. He stops my pawn from going forwards first, and then attacks both. So I say, you know what, okay, he's gonna take this pawn. There's nothing I can do about that. If I try to defend it, he'll take that one, and then that one. And my rooks are just in a bottle, and that's not gonna be very good at all. So king f4, I just want to get my king active because it's an end game. Takes, and h4, stopping g5. He wants to play g5. g4, I play g5, takes. Here, he's got a passed pawn now, but you'll see it's still very drawish. So I break open the center here. So this was an interesting moment. He checks me sacking his pawn, but then he'll take this pawn. And his rook seems very active. My rook is kind of not doing much. Now this is probably still a draw, but I didn't want to give him this type of counter chances. So instead, I just moved the king with the idea that if he pushes now, I'll take it this way, maintaining defense of my f2. So, okay. King G2. And he plays... What does he play?
Mm-hmm.
1 second. Let's go back. Okay, King G2, and here... Oh, I'm sorry. We had... What actually happens here? Okay. Goodness gracious, okay. Why is this happening? Stop. It's just broken. It's just useless. Okay, I remember. Okay. He goes rook e2, which my computer is having trouble figuring out. So here I take, rook f3. Now he comes up here trying to take with check. But I'm taking this one. Still looks like a draw. So here I figure I could theoretically check him and go f4, defending my pawn. Oh, not like this. Like this. Check. And here. But then he gets to go here. And these are forked. And then he'll have a passed pawn. And I just didn't see... this didn't feel convincing to me. So instead, simply took the pawn, allowing this, and then I just played king h3, hitting his pawn back, and I've got this threat as well. So after these moves, and I actually have the paper here, the last move here was king h3, and he goes rook g2, no he doesn't. Right. So after king h3, so I think here his idea was he wanted to get his king in this way and start eating my pawns, or start eating my pawns. And so it was very interesting. In the game, during the game, he touched his king in this position, and then thought about it and let it go. But in chess, it's touch move, and if you touch a piece, you have to move that piece. If you take a look at the king, it can only move one square, and that's to e5. So after he touched the king, he locked in his move. He had to go here to e5. But this is a huge mistake, because after f4, forking the king and the rook, white will just win the rook for free. He can't even counterattack mine. His best bet might just be to go here, and after takes, and well, I can just push my pawn anyway, make a queen. So it was at this moment here, after he played this move, that he actually resigned this last game because of f4. So those were the 4 games from the May 20th tournament. I had played some very strong opponents, and my rating went up quite a lot from this tournament here. Let me know what you think. I know it was a bit long. I wanted to give each game proper attention for what it was. Also, when you look through these games, I did something different than I usually do, and that's I was focused more on the long-term plans rather than just every little individual move. For example, here, I want to shut down these bishops, and that's something that we saw. So I think I played much better in this tournament because I'm focused on the big picture rather than just, oh, I can hit his knight, or, you know, oh, I'm gonna go checkmate his king. I'm the best. I'm gonna, I'm so good. I kind of put my ego away and try to figure out what the long-term plan was, and look at every concrete detail throughout the games. I wouldn't say that I played it safe. I took my chances when they arose, and I calculated a little more than usual. And yeah, I had a lot of fun during this tournament. I saw a lot of friends, and I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I definitely learned a lot about the world of chess tournaments and what it takes to have real success in them. And the number one thing I think is just to trust yourself, trust your instincts. Uh, don't be scared. Don't be afraid of ghosts, so to speak. I kind of just did what felt right, and it ended up working out very well. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, the games. Maybe you learned something. And if you're still watching, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.